Yo! Welcome to another episode of Under the Surface, a talk show where we talk all things Bazaar. Today we take a closer look at some of the characters in the Bazaar, namely Sphinxians and Wormcats. Who are they? What do they do? And where do they come from? If you want answers to those questions, join us right here, because we are diving under the surface. I'm not sure if you have been following the videos on the official The Bazaar account on YouTube, but every Friday we get some morsel of information regarding law, or perhaps there were patch discussions recently, so there's more content for us. The law videos are really fun to watch. There's always some cool art to look out for. I guess we have been sort of intrigued by this conflict between Sphinxians and Wormcats, and in general by their species. Which side are you on? Are you a Sphinxian boy or a Wormcat, I don't know, also boy?
I think my personal philosophy probably leans more to the Sphinxians. I'm not really I'm not like a ruthless like Klingon looking to kill everybody, which is what the Wormcats kind of act like. At least the one Wormcat we've seen. I guess we shouldn't generalize.
That's true. The only Wormcat that we have seen right now is now it's the important part. I see his name and I would pronounce it Ryukon, like with this Japanese influence, let's say. But in the videos, they pronounce it Ryakon. And I'm not sure who's correct. Like, probably them, as it's like Tempo's character. So they should know the pronunciation of the name. But at the same time, when I see this name, I'm 100% sure it's supposed to be pronounced Ryukon.
Yeah, I sort of thought about the same thing. But, they're making the game. So I guess it's whatever they decide.
Ryukon, like we have established that he's a Wormcat, and the Wormcats are described as primitive and powerful. I'm not sure what primitive refers to. Like, do they only use like weapons that are not that sophisticated, in the sense that they do not use guns and only, for example, use swords? And powerful, well, that's self-explanatory. And as Ryukon, or Ryakon, however you want to pronounce his name, is a weapon skill vendor. Definitely, he is some sort of fighting master, fighting teacher. I mean, we know he is a teacher because he teaches wisdom of the body and hunger, and I'm not sure where's the wisdom of hunger represented. What is it precisely? But I guess maybe tigers or wormcats know that there's some wisdom in being hungry. And I'm not sure if you have caught it, but there is a small sentence right there in the video that says that Ryukon eats his students.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. That's that's a little bit odd, buddy.
Right? It doesn't seem like a good business practice.
No, so that's kind of why you can't side with the Wormcats in this debate. At least their representative at the Bazaar is not a good one.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious why he's even here, because it sounds like he came with the other Sphinxian, the Sphinxians, who sounds like they're in like an eternal war with each other. Their societies are. So why did he follow them? There's not really much of an explanation from what I gathered, but
yeah,
maybe one day.
Yeah. So one last thing about Wormcats, and we can compare them to Sphinxians. Wormcats, at least based on Ryukon's appearance, they seem to be like elongated tigers that sort of should probably resemble Chinese dragons, with how the teeth are arranged and, well, the length, with little short stubby paws.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I first noticed that they had that weird tail. I didn't even notice the tail until the first episode on the migration came out, the Atlas Archives. So
Wormcats are sort of inspired by Chinese iconography. I think we can establish that.
Yep.
Maybe future additions to Wormcat lore may also be connected to like Chinese vibe. But then we have Sphinxians, right? Your boys, your mates, your homies.
Are you a Wormcat enjoyer then?
I mean, I'm not really. I mean, I would definitely like to know more about Wormcats because compared to Sphinxians, they seem underdeveloped in the lore.
Yeah.
Yeah, based on the current knowledge, there's not really a choice there. We have only one Wormcat in the game and at least a couple of Sphinxians, right? Like at least 4, I think, or 5 Sphinxians. They are more fleshed out, so there's more to relate to. And also they are like good guys in this dichotomy.
100%.
Right. But Sphinxians are described as first in Nufu's video was they were described as having keen minds and agile bodies, but in the Sphinxian video they are called frail and sophisticated. I was wondering about this frail versus agile bodies. I guess you could be agile and at the same time frail.
Yeah. I mean, you have like Nufu looks kind of frail himself. Like he just looks like Argenta looks super like she looks like she fits more the agile, you know? Like she's kind of buff and
I mean, not really buff, but she definitely does some sort of sporting activities. My understanding of that was that Sphinxians are this sort of monk society or maybe a theocracy, and they are sort of Buddhist-inspired community. As monks do, they do train their bodies and mind, but they are in most cases pacifists, or they do not willingly participate in wars or some other sorts of fights, right? So maybe that's the main conflict between Sphinxians and Wormcats. Sphinxians are more peaceful, yet put a lot of emphasis on being like fit, right? Being of a strong body and mind, while Wormcats prefer this raw power, just being, buffed. Maybe they love war a bit more, especially since, like, Ryukon is a weapons teacher. So maybe Wormcats being more aggressive, they sort of poke the bear and try to start a sort of war with Sphinxians to have some fun.
it's really hard to understand why they would be at this like eternal, like Sphinxians would be at this eternal war because they're so obviously against it. And I guess that would make sense. Like the Wormcats would have to be the aggressors in this scenario. So, maybe it's something like that. Maybe they underestimated the peaceful Sphinxians and went into, I don't know, take territory or just poke the bear just because they love war for the sport of it, something like that. So that makes sense to me, unless we're getting a sort of a biased view from the group that have come to the bazaar. Maybe they're the more peaceful Sphinxians that don't want to fight versus the wider society is maybe a little different.
Well, yeah, but see, why did I think them being like pacifists and in general a monk society and not just this group? Apparently, first of all, they come from planet Phyllis. That's what they call it. The story is that Nufu has become an exile in the past because he is called an exile. So, he was separated from his society and came to the bazaar long ago. And then he built his dojo, right? And after that, he sent a message to Olin, his old master. And then they sent this group of Sphinxians to the bazaar to learn more about it. And it's not said specifically that they sent group of researchers or group of monks. They just sent some of Sphinxians to the bazaar. And as it turns out, all of the Sphinxians that arrived were monks. So that's my assumption, that all of the Sphinxians are to some degree monks.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assumption. The thing about Nufu is we don't know. There's sort of this like in the trailer they give this idea that he's not being truthful about stuff. Like
Yes.
he's been here since the Bazaar's day one,
Hmm.
or maybe really before. So he's got to be several hundred years old at least, you would assume. But they kind of throw out this question at the end, like, is he lying about his age? Which and age is like a super important aspect of their culture, I guess, because they live for a really long time.
Yeah, those are
So
all assumptions, but they sort of impose themselves on us because Olin says that he suspects that he is the oldest Sphinxian, but Nufu doesn't want to say his age, so he cannot be sure. And at the same time, by implying this, he's sort of saying that age is an important factor in this society. Like, this is some sort of status symbol, perhaps. And if so, then why would Nufu lie about his age, right?
yeah, to have control over them potentially, or like did he falsely bring them into the bazaar? Because it seems they're all happy here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hard to say. We already know, like, we have Nufu, who is supposedly an exile of unknown age. Then the group of Sphinxians came to the bazaar, which were led by Olin, supposedly oldest Sphinxian and master of probably all the Sphinxians on Phyllis. And he came to the bazaar with Adira, which is the skill vendor that sells diamond skills. Apparently, Adira is the strongest Sphinxian in the existence. I guess makes sense. But then again, we also have this smaller kid-like vendor that sells bronze skills, and well, this kid is apparently like sort of in love, like has a crush on his like older colleague, which is the girl we talked about that sells silver skills.
He also brings up his age quite a bit, kind of saying like it's odd that he is a skill vendor because he's only like 18 or something, but he is, he's been taught by a lot of older people, kind of reinforcing age is important in their society
Yes,
over
I think
skill.
if I remember correctly, his name's Pip, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So apparently Pip is wise beyond his years. So I suppose, yeah, he's like quick to learn, right? I guess something like that. He has a master who is teaching him some ways of the force or whatever you want to call it. Yeah, and apparently he's advancing pretty fast.
I kind of move back to the war aspect of it because there is a board shown in the Sphinxian migration video.
Mm-hmm.
It shows, I mean, what I assume to be like something in the middle of this war. It's like in space and it's got all this crumbling rock around it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just interesting to point out. Like this is like a cosmic battle. This is not like on a single planet. This is like like Star Trek, Star Wars level fighting apparently going on. What exactly that looks like, we don't really know. But yeah,
Well,
they say it's in like a far corner of the galaxy, right? So it's probably space battles.
but at the same time, worm cats are described as primitive, and like space battles don't strike me as primitive. So,
They could be primitive in like the Klingon sense where they have the technology, but the way their society is ran is super primitive. Like Klingons
mm,
only it's only like basically about who's the strongest. Like there's no other things taken into account. So really, so maybe that sort of idea. It's kind of hard
maybe.
to tell because we only have the one guy.
Yeah, yeah,
So
we are speculating out of our minds right now. But like, yeah, I guess maybe that's one way to like approach this. So being really strict in terms of like hierarchy in this society, but at the same time maybe the technology is sort of like stolen or maybe simply found and they use it without like the learning part of it.
this can kill people. Let's use it to kill people.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it. There's also another board shown off, I think in both videos, the Nufu and the Sphinxian migration one. That is, I assume it's on Felice or whatever the name of the planet is
Phyllis.
that the Sphinxians are from. Yeah, and it shows sort of this like beautiful pasture with this rock cat head, I think, looking rock that's like in the ground, kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
statue that's been covered. So
Yes, nature themed board.
yeah, and so it's very peaceful, very monk like. So
Mm-hmm.
it's another thing to keep in mind, I guess.
I guess regarding those boards, like we have seen a couple of them in those videos that were presented so far. And even though some of them have all their layout, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't simply throw out those artworks and, you know, start anew for new boards. I suppose if not the same, they will be implemented into the game at some point in some form. They need to be updated for sure, but they need a lot of content to fill out future seasons. So I suppose there's a backlog of artworks that we have not yet seen that is simply waiting for another video.
Something I want to, this is sort of related, but it's a little bit off, but I think it fits well here. The fact that we're getting these very lore based videos that show off like cosmetics and boards and stuff makes me hope that future seasons are, you know, a season that's like the Sphinxian War or something, you know, like that has a super focus on Sphinxians and worm cats and their war, and we get a like lore with the new season, and we get boards related to it and cosmetics related to it. I don't know. I love when games do that because some games kind of push, sometimes their seasons are just like these very general themes like cyberpunk or something, right? I prefer when they lean into like, I mean, most of my experience with this sort of thing is from Overwatch, but when they used to do the lore seasons with all this crazy lore and you felt like you were in a real world, I don't know. That's way more fun than just cyberpunk or whatever they
Yeah,
decide to go with.
I think what you mean. Like, it would be cool if the seasons coincided with some sorts of events that are lore driven. Like, there's some overarching story that goes on in the background, and we can watch it unfold while playing the game.
Exactly.
I think I would like that as well.
But yeah.
Yeah, Tempo, make notes, and we'll see you in the next patch, as always.
Right.
Right. But I suppose that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. You know where the comments are, you know where the like and subscribe buttons are. So you may do with them as you please. All the Sphinxians subscribe, all the Wormcats like. You know, that's.
Get out of here, Wormcats. We don't want you in this community.
Hey, slow down, cowboy. Those are my likes.
Go to my channel instead.
Right. Okay, yeah. Thanks for watching. Look for the next episode on Thursday on Blake's channel, and we'll see you there. Bye!
See ya.